Paranormally Correct. I'm your host Sarah, and today I'm going to tell you another ghost story. This story was featured in my 2012 book, The Adaption, and you can read that chapter in full on the Facebook page. All of my social media is linked on the screen here. I have such a blast talking to you all and getting to know you and hearing your stories. I really look forward to seeing you on some of those other pages. But for now, let's go ahead and get started with the story. At the ripe old age of about 18, I kind of started part-time living with my very first really serious boyfriend. He had a nice apartment. It was in a much bigger town than my hometown. And it was actually pretty close to downtown, so right in the middle of all the action, which was not normal for me because I lived out in the country. But it was right off the main highway that went through the town called Indian Mound Road. We'll call him Adam for the sake of this video. He had a roommate named Scott, also a fake name. Scott was, for lack of a better way of putting it, a lazy bum. I also found it very hard to take him serious most of the time because he was just one of those people who was naturally full of. So of course when Scott told me before my first visit that there were some weird things going on in the apartment, I didn't believe him. Adam never said anything about weird things happening or paranormal activity in the apartment, but then again, he did work about 70 hours a week on average at a local automotive plant, so maybe he just didn't have time to see anything happen. I didn't know. My first day there was pretty normal. Nothing really happened, nothing out of the ordinary. It wasn't until that night when I went to bed that something happened. I was in bed, sound asleep, and all of a sudden this loud, sharp, rapid fire type sound jolted me completely out of the bed and out of my sleep. And I didn't know what the sound was or where it came from, and just because I had kind of woke up so quickly, I didn't even know for sure if it was real or if I dreamed it or what. This sound, I would come to find out, was clapping, and it continued to happen very, very often. Sometime after being there, another thing happened that was really strange, but something that I kind of chalked up to possibly explainable, not definitely paranormal. It happened one night when Scott and I were in the junk room. The junk room was just a spare bedroom that was in the apartment that the boys didn't need or use, so they turned it into kind of an entertainment type room. They didn't have cable or anything, so this was kind of like our living room, basically. Lots of books and computer, guitars, just some other meager forms of entertainment. Needless to say, we hung out in this room a lot, pretty often. So one night, Scott and I were just hanging out, and the sound just kind of popped up from somewhere in the apartment. So Scott got up to go check to see what was going on. He walked through the hallway, and he was kind of listening as he went. And he stopped just outside the bathroom door. I yelled out to him, I was like, what is it? What is it? What's happening? Because I didn't know if the house was on fire or going to explode. So he goes in the bathroom, the sound stops, and he looked in through the hallway at me, and he said the sink turned on. Most sinks have a twist knob. This one was not unlike any other sink, but for some reason, somehow, it came on. I knew for a fact that night that neither of us had left the sink running, and it was relatively quiet in the apartment, so we heard the sink come on. We didn't hear it prior to this happening, so I felt like, this was possibly an unexplainable thing, but, sometimes it's hard to wrap your mind around. Sometime after this, I went back home for a little while. Like I said, I kind of lived there part-time. I don't know why, but it's just how it worked out, I guess. While I was gone, I even started to kind of dismiss the things that had happened to me and, kind of start to think that they must have been explainable. Scott had a not-so-secret admirer, and it was not uncommon for her to mail him little tokens of her unrequited love. It was no surprise when, on one particular day, a teddy bear showed up in the mail. Scott, of course, was very irritated by this because he did not like the girl. And we kind of all scoffed at it, got a little laugh out of it. So let me kind of describe the layout of this apartment. When you walked in, there was a big open area where the living room was, and right across from the living room was a big archway that went into the kitchen. So it was kind of open, but kind of not at the same time. So then there was a hallway at the far side of the living room that ran past the bathroom and all of the bedrooms. Now the hallway was a straight shot into the two doors that went into our bedroom and actually the junk room. So you could kind of see from one end to the other, you could pretty much see the entire apartment. So after we kind of laughed at the girl and the teddy bear, Scott, not wanting the teddy bear of course, walked back through the hallway and threw the teddy bear as hard as he could. I heard it hit the wall in the junk room, and he closed the door shut behind him. He came back into the living room, got on a couch where he pretty much lived most of the time, and started watching a DVD. So hours later, okay, this is much later, he went to, well, probably not too much later considering he was going to the kitchen to get a snack because he ate a lot. He got up from the couch and he walked through the living room toward the kitchen. And remember how I told you you could see like from that one vantage point all the way through the hallway in the two bedrooms, right? So when he went to walk into the kitchen, he kind of glanced to his left down the hallway, and the junk room door, of course, was still closed, but the teddy bear was balanced on top of the doorknob. I know none of us did that for sure. I know for a fact none of us did that. So that was pretty much completely unexplainable. At this point, we knew it was haunted for sure. And because of that reason, I started staying there a lot more often and going home a lot less. Sometime later one morning, I got up a little earlier than normal, and I wanted to have a witness just in case something paranormal happened, so I tried to get Scott up too. But being the lazy permanent fixture on the couch that he was, he wouldn't get up. Well, I guess I must have made noise or disturbed him or whatever. I went into the kitchen, I got something to drink, probably coffee, and I went back to the bedroom this time. Not the junk room, but the bedroom. And I got on the computer just to surf the internet. Keep in mind still, you can see from one end to the other of this apartment. I have to keep reiterating that so that it makes sense. I heard Scott stirring, and I looked to my right through the hallway, and I saw that he had got up and was going toward the kitchen. And as I was looking, he actually stopped right in front of the kitchen archway. And I looked at him for a minute as he looked into the kitchen with this bewildered look on his face. He didn't even really turn to look at me. He just was like, hey, come here. I got up, I walked through the hall. I got to the kitchen door where he was standing. And I looked into the kitchen to see what it was he was looking at. And every door on every cabinet and every appliance, refrigerator, dishwasher, everything was open. I know for a fact he didn't do this. It didn't make any sense whatsoever, but at that point we were all pretty convinced that this place was definitely haunted. Adam was very unhappy with his job. He was working tremendously long hours every week, at least 70 hours a week. And in his very rare free time, if he did get free time, he spent most of it searching for a new job. He had just recently reconnected with a friend from high school, and this friend and his girlfriend, we'll call him Kevin and girlfriend, Kevin and Ashley, I don't know, we'll call him Kevin and Ashley. They both worked at another place in town, another plant that paid even better and didn't work you to the point where you were ready to die of exhaustion. So Kevin suggested to Adam a few times on different occasions, you know, you should apply where I work. It's a much better place. You'll like it a lot. I'll drop off an application. Kevin and Kevin's girlfriend worked third shift. He worked second shift, but it was a weird second shift. So really the only time for Kevin to stop by with the application would be pretty early in the morning, like maybe 7:30 or 8. A few days passed. We didn't really know for sure. Well, I didn't really know for sure when Kevin was going to stop by with the application. But one morning, while we were in bed asleep, someone started knocking on the door. On the bedroom door, not the actual apartment door. I assumed that it was probably Scott knocking on the door to tell Adam that Kevin had showed up with the application. I know that seems kind of weird, like why wouldn't he just drop it off and leave? Well, Scott was kind of the type of bonehead that would be like, yeah, let's go wake him up. I used to be a light sleeper. I'm not sure what happened because I'm not anymore. You could drop a bomb next to me now and I probably wouldn't wake up. This knock was a pretty heavy knock. It woke me completely up. And I was trying to shake Adam and wake him up. I was kind of halfway afraid someone would just burst in, and I'm weird about strangers seeing me sleep. For some reason that makes me uncomfortable. So this person, whoever it was, kept knocking on the door, And I was shaking Adam. I was like, wake up, somebody's at the door. I think Scott's at the door, Kevin's at the door, somebody's at the door, please go answer the door. Finally he gets up and he is so groggy. He was a really heavy sleeper, as opposed to me being a light sleeper, but normally when you would wake him up, he was extremely groggy and had no idea what was going on for like the first hour he was awake. Adam gets up, he goes staggering over to the door, and just because I felt uncomfortable, I kind of pull the covers over my head and I left a little peephole so I could peep out and see who it was. He opens it up and I'm watching out my peephole. There was a girl at the door. She had long black hair. She was holding papers. So of course I assumed, this is the application. Kevin's girlfriend, who I had never met, I had actually never met Kevin, was, bringing the application. So I'm watching this exchange through my peephole, and Adam talks to this girl for a couple of minutes. I could hear Adam just, ever so often saying, yeah, okay, I will. But she was talking so quietly, which I assume because, everybody was asleep. She probably felt weird waking us up. I couldn't really see what she was wearing, but it kind of looked like something brown, like a brown dress or something, which was weird because they just got off of work. She obviously wouldn't have wore a dress. But anyway, they talked for a couple of minutes. She gives Adam the paperwork. He closes the door. He brings the papers and lays them on the computer desk and gets back into bed. Adam's already sound asleep again. I couldn't go back to sleep because I was, like I said, I was kind of irritated, to be totally honest. And I thought, okay, I'll just wait a few minutes for this girl to leave. Maybe Kevin's in there too, or maybe he's waiting in the car or whatever. So I waited about 10 minutes, maybe no more than 15 for sure. And I got up and I went into the living room, and it was weird because Scott was already completely sound asleep. But I kind of didn't think anything of it because Adam went straight back to sleep too. By the way, if I didn't mention this, Scott almost always slept on the couch. I don't remember if it was because he didn't have a bed. I think the couch had a fold-out bed in it anyway, so. The next night was actually Adam's day off for the week. So that evening we were all sitting around in the living room, and we ordered a pizza, we were watching a DVD, probably House of a Thousand Corpses. Adam started complaining about his job, as he always did. And I was like, well, why don't you take that application that Kevin's girlfriend brought, fill it out tonight, take it back tomorrow or something. Kind of looked at me like, what? I was like, the application that Kevin's girlfriend brought yesterday, duh. They kind of looked at each other for answers, like, what is she talking about? Adam said, she never brought an application, Kevin never stopped by. I haven't heard anything from him. And I was like, oh, come on. I was like, she brought it yesterday morning, you talked to her, she came to the bedroom door. I was like, Scott, you let her in, right? I mean, she was here, right? And he was like, I didn't let anybody in. At that point, I realized by the look on their faces that they honestly had no idea what I was talking about. In an attempt to prove them wrong, I jumped up out of the living room floor, ran into the bedroom to get the application off the computer desk, but it wasn't there. I looked all around the bedroom, I looked underneath things. There wasn't a whole lot of furniture in any of the apartments. There wasn't much to search through, but I looked everywhere. I even looked in the junk room, and I couldn't find this application. Came back in the living room and I was like, did you move the papers that were laying on the desk? I was making a really big fuss about this because I knew for a fact that the girl had showed up. I listened to Adam talk to her. How was it possible that they had no idea what I was talking about? Adam was like, I swear to you, nobody brought an application. Kevin hasn't been here. His girlfriend hasn't been here. I haven't heard anything at all from them. And Scott was like, yeah, I swear that I didn't let anybody in and I haven't seen anybody either. I was like, but Adam, you talked to the girl at the bedroom door. And he's like, I don't remember talking to anybody. Over the next few months, most of the neighbors moved out of that building. And at some point, not really ghost related, Adam and Scott both moved out too, and I just went back home. Before we left though, Adam and I asked a few neighbors who he was kind of acquaintances with if they had ever seen or heard or experienced anything possibly paranormal there. It turned out that a lot of neighbors had paranormal experiences too. No one had seen the girl just us. And it was during this time where we were trying to find out if anyone else had had experiences that we kind of incidentally found out that Indian Mound Road got its name from literally being an Indian mound. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope that you will subscribe and stick around. This story in full, the actual chapter from the book, will be available on the Facebook page. That's just Facebook/Paranormally Correct. If you have time, maybe stop by, read a few of them. And also let me know in the comments, have you ever had a similar experience to this? And if not, what is your scariest ghost story? I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.